name's Zane Schreiber, just turned 26, born and raised in Hagerstown, Maryland. Grew up on the north end of town and ended up going to North High for high school and ended up luckily earning an academic and athletic scholarship to play baseball at George Washington University. And after my 4 years there living in DC, I realized quickly that I was a homebody back in Hagerstown and wanted to come back to where my roots were and do something good for the community and establish a career here too. So this is where I ended up. I originally got introduced, it was right when I graduated from college, was trying to get involved, and again, I know I wanted to work with the youth but didn't really know where to start, so I actually reached out to a good family friend of mine, Doug Fiery, who's been involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters for 15 years or so and still is involved with them. He introduced me to Tom Klein, who I knew previously from Federal Little League of all places, and that's really where I started, and that's led to inroads at United Way, where I get hooked up with Heather Gesford, and then Federal was where I played Little League, where I loved Little League a lot. Met a lot of my friends who still really good friends to this day. So I got that ability to go over and help out there, doing something I love, which was baseball, and teaching kids how to play it, but also how to play it the right way too, and knowing how much of an impact that had to me in terms of not only athletically but just development in terms of personality, growing your career, so on and so forth. There's a lot of parallels between sports and development in that way. If you can tell throughout my nonprofit work, a lot of the focus is on youth. So whether it's Federal Little League, whether it's Big Brothers Big Sisters, United Way, all have some kind of footprint and overlap within the youth community. I think the earlier you can get tailored by some mentors growing up, the better, rather than waiting until you're 2021, where your kind of roots have already been set, your ways have already been set. So I think the small town community is great, especially for trying to grow and prosper some of the young individuals coming up. So I've been involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters since I think 2017. I've served as a big in that capacity for probably 4 or 5 years now, and I've served on the board for I think 3 years. And in my little, he's great. I always tell people that the ideal mentorship is the mentee learning everything from the mentor, but I think it's really vice versa when it comes to that. It was a really eye-opening experience for me. Coming from what I call privileged background, living in middle-class Hagerstown, life wasn't too hard growing up. And I walk into his house the first day and there's electricity cut off, doesn't know where his food's coming from. So it was very, very eye-opening for me to see that you go a stone's throw away down the street from the north end, and you're in an area where people don't know where the next meal is coming from, and I wasn't really exposed to that growing up, and it's been a really, really, truly humbling experience, I would say, and I've learned so much more from Amari than he's learned from me. I can tell you that. As much as I try to mentor him, at the end of the day, his attitude and growth over the past 4 or 5 years has been tremendous, and he came from a pretty rough background, but has stayed resilient through the entire thing, and couldn't be more proud of the kid. So I really look at it as an opportunity to help grow, and if it's one person, if it's 2 kids, that's great. It doesn't matter how many people it is, as long as you're making an impact. So I'm going to continue to do that, continue to focus on the youth, and hopefully get Washington County on track to help prosper, because obviously there's a ton of opportunity around here, and I just don't think it's being taken advantage of as it should, and I think there's definitely room for growth and development within that aspect. You're putting forth a little effort to help these kids big time down the road, and knowing that in the back of your mind, you don't really see it as a nonprofit or charitable obligation that you have to do. It's you're doing better for the community, and if you can cut out a couple minutes in the day to do that, by all means do it. I think there's a lot of, in the 2020 world that we're in now, a lot of ways to get distracted with social media, so on and so forth, and really just focusing on the good in the world and how to develop that is the way I look at it. in terms of the nonprofit and charitable commitments you make, I really think it's quality over quantity. You can toss as many dollars as you want towards an organization, but I think at the end of the day, volunteerism is huge. And one of the things I'm always trying to initiate people to do is just get out and get involved. The more the merrier when it comes to that kind of stuff. The more quality time we have volunteers helping out, getting one-on-one attention with, again, my heart is within the youth, getting kids on the right track to start out with, that's enormous. So I think as long as I can motivate and then, initiate as many people as I can to get involved, and like I said earlier, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day work, but big picture wise, you always got to open yourself up in terms of really what are you giving back to the community, and whether it's money or whether it's volunteerism, they're both important. I just found it really, really important to hone in on focusing on the development and the initiatives of the organization that you're working for. And the federal Little Leagues and Big Brothers of the world, they're focusing on youth development and trying to make Washington County's next generation an awesome generation. And that's I just serve as a little piece to that big picture plan.